Hi, it's Jennell Evans, and I wanted to share some thoughts about courage, particularly during these times of massive uncertainty. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and there's courage that we see every night on national news or local news too. And then there's courage that we don't see. And when I think about the courage that we see, particularly in the news, there's amazing stories about our frontline healthcare workers who are just demonstrating such courage every moment, every day, every hour that they are in these hospital systems. And even outside of that world, people who are making sure that we still have food in the grocery stores and all kinds of goods and services that we need to keep our lives moving forward to some sense of normalcy before we were declared to be in a global pandemic. All kinds of essential workers, postal workers, meat plant processing folks. I mean, just I could go on and on with the list of people who really haven't had a break since this started. And then there's the courage that we don't see. It's the moms and dads who are working at home, some for the very first time ever, and at the same time, they have to somehow figure out how to educate their children who are young and not easily distracted, or teenagers home from high school, or college students who are home and really don't want to be. So just a lot of complexities, even just in the family life of adjusting to these new normals. And that takes a lot of courage to sort of pivot and reset and, kind of constantly reconfigure what life is supposed to be like. That takes courage too. And then we have people like, business owners who are continuing to pay their employees, amazing, even some who didn't get the government support that was announced a couple of weeks ago. And I think that takes tremendous courage because they probably don't really know the long-term financial impacts of doing such a kind and generous thing during this time. It takes courage to do that. And landlords who have deferred rental payments. And I could go on and on. So sometimes we see these stories and then sometimes they're really invisible. And another group of folks that I think about who are also demonstrating courage are people who, for the first time in their lives, are not able to pay their bills because they've lost their jobs to no fault of their own. It's just the trickle-down effect of businesses being closed, restaurants, everything just being shut down so that we can all stay home, stay safe, save lives during this time. And they're getting up every day trying to file unemployment benefits or to get some kind of support that's been promised. They're trying to maybe, send out their resume, get interviews during this time, find another job. All of that takes courage. And a lot of those folks, this is a really big hit on their identity. And unfortunately, they may feel shame, which is not helpful for them right now. And it's not their fault. And yet they found themselves in this situation. And it takes courage to get out of bed and keep going every day, just to continue to try to improve the current situation that they're in. So, courage is defined as a quality of mind or spirit that enables a person to face difficulty, danger, pain, etc. And being courageous doesn't mean that we don't feel fear. As a matter of fact, courage is when you acknowledge that you're feeling the fear, but refusing to let it control you or how you show up. And I think this is a time that we really need to call up our courage reserves because we are in such an unusual situation, a time that none of us have ever lived through, and we don't have a playbook for this. And we're all doing the best that we can. And being able to go through this experience with a little more optimism and feeling like we have some control and therefore can take some courageous acts is really going to serve us versus being in the complete opposite state. So my intention here in sharing with you is just to focus on, why I think courage matters so much more, what you can do to have more of it during this time. And so that's what I want to share with you. I think you can all, watching this, think about a time in your life where you were courageous. And you might even go back to your childhood, where you pushed yourself through some fear and you did something and you felt just amazing afterwards. It's very empowering when we do something that scares us, right? And I don't know about you, but I've certainly had those moments as we move forward. Today is May 7th, 2020, as I'm recording this, and we've had about 8 weeks of adjusting to this and doing things outside of our comfort zone big time. And all of those things do take a certain degree of courage. So why does courage matter more right now? Because it's always mattered, right? But I feel like it matters more now. And the reason I think this is because we need to do everything in our power to optimize our emotional health, because that's going to help us optimize our physical health right now. So, again, acting courageously up levels our emotional state. It makes us feel better when we do courageous things. Just like I was saying earlier, you think about something in your childhood. Maybe it was riding your bicycle and you got on and you went down the street. It felt amazing, right? So I think it gives us that I can do this confidence and attitude, that it uplifts our spirit, our self-esteem. It just makes us feel so much better. And the reality is then that helps us be more effective in everything that we're trying to do right now. And a lot of what we're trying to do is new. It's not something, there are patterns that we've had for years. We're creating new patterns in how we even function, working from home and not going anywhere and all of that. So during this pandemic, I've certainly noticed, and maybe you have too, that folks are kind of all across a broad spectrum of an emotional range, from the lower energy frequencies around being fearful and sad and depressed and confused. Maybe some people in the middle, and then some people are definitely moved towards the more positive, more optimistic types of emotions where they've been demonstrating courage. Again, that's really helped them land there probably more. And they're looking for, the opportunities during this time. And they've decided to be courageous, and they've decided to be brave. And they are the folks who are making lemonade out of lemons, so to speak, now. And of course, there are many variables that impact how a person feels emotionally. And sometimes during this kind of experience, we're going to be all over the place, and that's normal too. But what serves us better in us being able to function at a higher level, being able to make better decisions, feel better through this experience, is to focus more on those higher energy frequencies of trying to find the joy in this, trying to find those moments when of gratitude through this experience. And that's going to up level your energy and help you thrive versus just feeling like you're surviving. So we need to call up our courage reserves right now to help us, because courage is all about stepping outside of our comfort zone and trying small daily acts of just being brave, right? It's healthy to remind ourselves too that we get to choose how we want to feel. Our thoughts dictate our feelings. So if we don't like the way that we're feeling, we can change our thoughts, then that's going to change our feelings. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But that realization that we actually do get to choose, no one has taken that from us, also really empowers us and gives us a greater sense of control in a time where it feels like a lot is outside of our control. So how do we become more courageous? I'd like to share some thoughts on that. But first, courage is like a bicep muscle. It can be developed with intentional, repetitive is the word I'm trying to say, repetitive actions. And Brene Brown, who's the author of many books, one of my favorites, says in her book, The Gifts of Perfection, I have the quote here I want to share, that courage is a habit, a virtue. You get it by courageous acts. It's like you learn to swim by swimming. You learn courage by couraging. And I love the simplicity of that statement because it's true. To feel more courageous, we have to take more actions that are really, one would call courageous. They're outside of our comfort zone. Maybe they're things that we've just never done before, and we don't know what the risk is in doing some things. And this pandemic has given us all opportunities, I think, to think and reflect back about, how do we want to show up? What is going to serve us best, and how we maintain our emotional home. Do we choose to be courageous or afraid, strong or weak, brave or fearful? And we get to choose. And so you can become more courageous by being afraid and acting anyway, taking some action. Maybe you've done that before. Like I think about parents who have never homeschooled their kids, and now they've got all of this to manage on top of, a lot of them are also working a full-time job at home. Or maybe you're in a position where you've got to do a very important presentation on Zoom, and you've just never done that before. So I think this is a time where we need to do what we need to do and let go of perfection, and give ourselves a lot of grace, because we are all doing a lot of things that are unfamiliar. We've got these new patterns in our work-life imbalance. I don't even know what we would call it right now, but things is kind of topsy-turvy. That's a word that keeps coming up for me, topsy-turvy. So just letting go of that, remembering that all that we are doing that is new and outside of our comfort zone is going to feel awkward. It's going to feel strange. It's going to conjure up some fear sometimes, because we just can't trust it maybe until we master it. And I just want to remind you that probably anything new you've done, a new skill, a new practice, a new ritual, whatever it is, could feel kind of yucky at first until you do it enough that you actually master it and have a greater degree of comfort about it until it becomes a norm. And I think for many of us here in about week 8 of this journey, that we're finding that's true, right? We're finding that we're doing things that we've never had to do. And wow, I actually am better at that than I realized. So, but it took courage to do that, perhaps, because it was so unfamiliar. You can become more courageous by choosing to be brave for yourself and for other people. You know, those of you with children, this is a great opportunity to demonstrate through your behaviors and your words what courage really looks like. You know, I'm a parent, and I know I always thought that part of my job as a parent was to raise my son to be able to function and be, optimize his emotional intelligence. And this is also part of that. But what I did certainly was more of an influence on him than what I said. So demonstrating being courageous during this time is certainly a great way to teach your children. It's also a great way to lift up friends in your life that maybe are struggling. If they see you acting courageous and moving forward, then that's going to help them, because you're showing them the way. You can model it. So if you're the person who is, struggling less, then you can reach out to someone else and help them by how you're showing up. And another thing I thought about during this time, that a lot of you who are working at home, maybe for the first time, this is a great opportunity to show your managers that, you can keep calm and carry on, that you have the courage to take on anything that the team needs at this time. And maybe there's been a project that no one has wanted to tackle. And with less commuting time, this might be a great opportunity for you to be courageous and volunteer to take on something that actually might benefit not only you and the team, but also in your own career down the road. So just seeking those opportunities, being intentional about where are those things where maybe I hadn't thought about, where I can actually benefit and help other people by being courageous, and just kind of focusing on that more. You can also become more courageous by being more of an early adopter about where we are in this journey. I know for myself and many people, when this all happened, it was almost unbelievable. It's like, what's really going on? And then we got to go into a different phase of it, of acceptance and, maybe not acceptance. But I know this, if we don't accept where we are, because life, as we all knew it before this global pandemic, is over. And our life moving forward is going to be different. We all don't know what that's going to look like. We're kind of in that figuring out stage right now, but it will be, and we will get through this, and life will be different in a lot of ways. But if we hang on to sort of the old ways before COVID-19, that won't serve us. And we won't be able to be fully engaged in the present moment, and we won't be able to be fully engaged in how great our future can be when we're at a different stage of this pandemic. So I encourage you to be an early adopter and to be, kind of commit to yourself to show up to be the best version of who you can be during this. And when you look back at this time, what you taught your children, how you lifted up friends and colleagues, and how you gave extra support if you're a working person, during this time will make you feel really incredibly proud of yourself, that you didn't succumb to the fear and that you pushed through a lot of things that actually helped you and helped a lot of other people. We're also just being courageous, taking this one day at a time. Again, I said there's no playbook for this. No one has it. I wish somebody did. We would all be signing up for it, right? But again, acting courageous is something that we get to choose to do. No one has taken that from us. And every action that we take to protect ourselves and our families and our friends, it's all an act of courage. And again, it's normal to have those times where we don't feel as courageous. And I know when I feel that way and I sort of dip into, the lower energy frequencies, I like to call them, a little bit of fear, I am immediately jolted out of that. When I see stories, particularly at night, I watch the national news, and I see these stories about frontline workers, our healthcare workers, and the sacrifices that they are making and the courage that they demonstrate every day, every minute, every hour of walking into a hospital environment, not knowing what is going to happen during that day, and they come home and they can't really be with their families. Some of these healthcare workers, you've heard the stories too, are not even living with their families if they have little ones because they don't want to potentially contaminate them or put them at risk in any way. So they are demonstrating courage at a level that I don't know that we've ever seen. And certainly we have a lot of brave folks, our police officers, firemen, they run into buildings. This is something that's because we don't know how to totally, protect them, let's say. I think that's been more of a let's figure it out as we go situation. And it just inspires me when I hear and I see their stories so much. So whenever I feel like I'm slipping into an energy, emotional place where I'm not going to be able to make the best decisions for myself and my family, I'm inspired by them. And emotions are contagious, and I think they spread a lot of courage around every day, every moment. And so I'm so grateful for them, and I just really want to say that here as well. I cannot imagine our lives without our frontline healthcare workers and all of the essential workers who, really have it continue to work and do whatever they needed to do in their jobs. Was far outside of their job descriptions also to keep us safe and to keep certain aspects of our day-to-day world as normal as possible. So yes, courage is contagious. And, I know that if you choose to show it, that you're going to help other people as well as help yourself. And we need more of that now during this chaotic time. Sometimes we just have to follow the lead that we see in others. And we just need to see what we can be. And again, that's what the healthcare workers have done for me. Maybe they have for you. But just moving forward, I want to just encourage you to be intentionally courageous for all the reasons that I've shared today. It's going to help you thrive versus just feeling like you're surviving sometimes. And I'd like to close by just sharing a quote from Dr. Maya Angelou. One isn't necessarily born with courage, but one is born with potential. Without courage, we cannot practice any other virtue with consistency. We can't be kind, true, merciful, generous, or honest. And I think that we need all of these things at this time of great uncertainty. Thank you.